Good morning, everyone. I'm deeply honored to open the 12th International Crypto Module Conference. It's the first time this conference is held in the Bay Area, where many technological innovations started here and changed the world. We have brought the ICMC to the heart of innovations. This year, the CMUF portal has been migrated onto an Amazon virtual server thanks to Amazon's generosity for hosting CMUF new portal on their cloud. Let's give a hand to Alicia, who made that happen. Let me see. People are still walking in. If Alicia's here, if she's not here yet, then say thanks to her when you see her. I also want to thank atsec for purchasing a lifetime license for a collaboration tool from OnlyOffice. And we use it every day for inspiring discussions and changing our ideas to improve the crypto module validation standards and process. We have over 800 members on the new portal representing government agencies, labs, vendors, researchers, and practitioners. I would like to say that many of the CMUF members are here for this annual community reunion. And that is where we say hello to our old acquaintance and make new friends. I would like to thank the program community for creating a very rich program for 3 days of conference. And it's all in this thick booklet. There are 90 presentations and the panels combined. I'm not going to read through it, but in particular, there are 3 topics stand out: the NCCOE's progress in automating the crypto module validation program, the upcoming revision of ISO IEC 19790, and the post-quantum cryptography, which we already have a pre-conference day yesterday called PQC Cyber Day. I would like to thank, here's Alicia at the court. If you want to say thanks to her, that's her for, for providing Amazon platform hosting the CMUF portal. Very much appreciated. I would like to thank the conference organizer, Bill Rutledge and his team, to sponsors, exhibitors, speakers, panelists, moderators, and all of you for being part of this exciting event. For a very warm welcome, please enjoy a video clip from atsec, which is specially made for this ICMC on the topic of post-quantum cryptography. Please enjoy.
2023, NIST released the draft standards for 3 of these algorithms for public comment.
Thanks to this feedback and the work of NIST cryptographers, these standards have now been finalized. Now is the time for cybersecurity experts to integrate these new algorithms into their current and future systems.
This is a historic moment in the beginning of a new era in digital.
To this feedback and the work of NIST cryptographers, these standards have now been finalized. Now is the time for cybersecurity experts to integrate these new algorithms into their current and future systems.
This is a historic moment in the beginning of a new era in digital security.
Hello.
There's a quantum interference.
No! Hello, this is Stefan.
Hello, this is also Stefan.
Oh, hi Stefan. What's up?
Don't forget to get the word out at the ICMC.
Don't worry, I got this.
Ah, okay. That sounds good. So, thank you, Stefan, for reminding me to get the word out. And what better way could there be to get the word out than to think about what has already been achieved so far? As we've heard, we now have the standards for these post-quantum algorithms available. That means implementers can create implementations for production use cases. Second, we now have also cryptographic algorithm testing available, which means you can get official CAF-P certificates for those algorithms. And for example, we as atsec, we have already achieved to get some of those algorithms in the past. And lastly, and that is the most important aspect to me that I would like to convey, is the fact that NIST members as well as NIST CT group members are actively participating in the PQC forum. The PQC forum is a collaboration between industry and academia to exchange ideas about these algorithms. Now, you see NIST is actively listening to both developers as well as researchers in that realm. And the result of that collaboration is what we see now actually in our very standards that we have. They contain previously unheard of degrees of freedom that should make the adoption of those algorithms relatively easy. With that said, it is on us, on all of us sitting here in this very room to spread now the word. Let's inform our colleagues, our peer developers, our customers, or even our vendors to make them aware of that these algorithms are now available for production use cases. But it means that we all here have to get up to speed with respect to these algorithms and their implementations. And a good opportunity for doing that, for learning about them, is here at our very conference. With that, I would like to thank you, and I wish us all a successful ICMC 2024.
That everyone please do some quantum entanglement 3 days of the conference and thoroughly enjoy this opportunity. And I think we just want to have a credits to play. Many people contribute to the clip, so we just want to finish the credits. And thank you for all. Yeah, if you could play the clip towards the very last portion of it.
Well.
Right, so continue from here, yes.
Let's continue from there.
Right. Yeah, we want to thank the NIST allowing us to use part of their clip, and the NIL people give us very nice feedback at the very early draft of this production. There were no penguin get hurt, helping us making the quantum computers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yi and Stefan. I just wanted to make a quick administrative note. There are 1 or 2 errors in the printed agenda. So for the official copy, go to the online version that's on the web. And with that, I'd like to say the topic for our first keynote presentation is the post-quantum cryptography roadmap for the federal government. Our speaker is the Associate Chief of Strategic Technology at the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency. Please join me in welcoming Garfield Jones. Garfield.
Hi, good morning. So first of all, I'd like to thank ICMC for inviting me to speak. Very humbled to speak in front of you, to see this large group. I mean, it's, when I started with quantum, we did not have, I think, 10 people on the call. And so now I look out, I'm like, oh my, this is a little intimidating even for me. And I talked at a lot of conferences, but it's great to see that PQC is really starting to come into its coming out of its winter, and it's really getting into its spring. So good to have you. First of all, I want to say that I work with the folks, the NIST colleagues over there. I did not know they had that kind of talent. It's amazing. I was a little shocked by how well Matt put that together. So have to get his autograph. So as Erin was saying, I'm from the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. I've been working on PQC for about 4 years now. We have been trying to get the word out. We've been trying to get everyone to come to the table and get a good call to action as far as getting ready for PQC, preparing for what this event or series of events will bring us. So it's good that we are moving in that direction. I'm starting to see a lot of good muscle movement. I work for CISA, And I can tell you, whenever we see anything like this, especially when you're talking about breaking asymmetric encryption, we're very nervous. Our goal is to protect the nation's infrastructure and make sure that we're safe against any quantum attacks from any kind of adversaries. So I'm going to just hop into the roadmap. The roadmap is basically to show how we're going to, what happens after NSM 10. So NSM 10 was basically the national security memorandum that started the government down this road. Outlined the threat posed by quantum, which is to break the asymmetric cryptography if using a CRQC, a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. You will see crypto analytically relevant quantum computer there as well. But it's basically to make sure that the agencies that we represent, especially in the federal government, that they are prepared for how to handle this. We in support of NSM 10, OMB issued a memo, 2302, which CISA worked on with OMB and various other agencies to lay out what an inventory should look like. That was a very arduous task, but we're trying to figure out what a crypto inventory would look like, and we laid it out to make sure that we are at least starting down that road. Again, a lot of this was in preparation. As I said, the roadmap really identifies that the activities that are necessary for that execution after we get the inventory that is detailed out in M2302. So, and this roadmap applies to the federal civilian executive branch, all the agencies. Any organization is welcome to use it. I think it's very applicable in that sense, but we're really trying to make sure that our agencies are prepared for this. Again, it does not include our national security systems, those high-level systems that we're not working with that right now. We are going to get to that as we move along. There we go. So this is one of the timeline here, and this timeline, I know you probably can't see everything on there, but there's a reason, because we're going to go through it as we go through the presentation. But what I really want to call your attention to is the activities that are continuous. All right, we're going to monitor. We're going to make sure that everything is up to speed, and that we're starting to push towards that that inventory, and making sure that the cryptographic algorithms in this release are implemented within our products that we're using within the federal government. Again, here we're looking at updating the PKI infrastructure. So that is not an easy task. That's where crypto agility and terms like that really come into play. As I said, we're going to go through a little bit more of that as the presentation goes through. And you'll see on that first half where we're talking about FY24 and early FY25 that we're really talking a lot of preparation. A lot of preparation activities are in there. And then as we move through, we're really going to start into the continuous activities as we go forward. So NIST published the first of the set of PQC standards at the White House event. That was a very exciting time. This is my first time I'm getting to thank NIST publicly. I just want to make sure that they get their due thanks. Great job on that. They said they were going to release it in the summer of 2024, and they did. So I really want to say that it's been great working with them as far as these standards, as far as the release of the standards, and I think their work is not, it's just starting. I mean, that release really just brought this into the news, and I think you probably know CISA's director, Jen Easterly. We have to brief her now. Thanks, NIST, for all that work. Now I got to go in there and brief her all the time. So that's going to be, that's what we're looking at. I mean, NIST has really done a great job in this, but you know, this is just the start of the long road. This is, you know, we're just on the exit ramp, and we're now going on to the highway to really make sure that our systems are safe against what quantum attacks that could possibly come. We're hoping that vendors, I think we've talked to a lot of vendors that we're working with, that they're going to start implementing these algorithms within their products this year. So this year and within the next year or so. So that's going to be great, because then that way we can start doing some testing. So as we move along, we'll start to work with more and more vendors. You know, working at CISA, we're very open to working with vendors. We are looking for vendors to come to us. We're reaching out. So if we haven't reached out to you, reach out to us, okay? And we're definitely wanting to work with you to make sure that you're PQC compliant. So as I said, we're going to monitor. We're going to make sure we establish those lines of communication. So we are definitely looking for vendors to come out and talk to us about their products and make sure that they're implementing these products in the right way, these algorithms in the right way. We don't want to have any kind of surprises, because if you're familiar with the government enterprise, it is very dynamic. I mean, extremely dynamic. When I first got into the government, I was shocked at how crazy it is. And because we've got, you know, some that are working in labs, which have very, you know, standalone equipment, and then we have others that are working in very complex areas. So having these vendors talk to us and be able to understand the landscape that they're dealing with is one way, and being able to implement those products correctly is another thing that we really are looking forward to. So please, as I say, reach out. You know, I'm fairly friendly. You know, you talk to me, I'll talk back to you. So no worries, okay? And we have our joint collaborative environment department that will talk to you, and we have vendor engagement. So please, let's talk, and let's make sure we get this done the right way. So test and evaluation. This is one of the areas that we are extremely concerned about. You know, we've been working with NIST to kind of set up a T&E environment. We've actually developed some use cases for automated testing, for automated cryptographic inventory tools to test against those. But you know, NIST is working to validate that the products have these algorithms. Don't know if my NIST folks are here, but we are working very heavily with them, and they have some great environments. I did not know that they had so much stuff at NIST. NCCOE is great. We're working heavily with them. As you can see on the slide, it says, you know, we want to really look at these cryptographic discovery tools to make sure that they're doing the right things, that they're giving us the right information. You know, we want to provide that interoperability and performance testing, whether we can go back between classical and quantum. Not everything in our environment, in the federal space, will be able to switch over to those algorithms right away. We've seen that, you know, those lattice-based algorithms don't sit well on some of the smaller OT systems, or even some of the lab systems that we have. So we have to see how that's going to work. So there's a lot going on in that space when we're talking about the test and evaluation environment. So we really want to make sure that that's being looked at and developed as we go through. So update and maintain inventory of cryptographic assets. So this inventory is what we were talking about earlier with the spreadsheets, that OMB 2302 is kind of what developed the spreadsheets there. But those spreadsheets are very manual, right? Then, folks have to go out and count that. And you'll see by the OMB PQC report, they pushed manual inventory. And there's a reason they pushed manual inventory. And the reason is you have to have some kind of baseline before you go into those automated tools. I mean, we're all about trust but verify, right? And so right here, we have to make sure that everything that we do is able to be verified by those tools. We published a PQC cryptographic strategy. You can see here the strategy for migrating to automated PQC discovery and inventory tools. We've published that to the federal space. It's being worked to get out to the public space, which, if you know government, it takes a long time to do everything. So, of course, we got to go through all our little hoops and lawyers. I don't know if there are any lawyers here, but if you guys can help out, greatly appreciate it. But as we go through these manual inventories and we get some kind of baseline of what is there and some sampling, then we're going to gradually bring those automated tools in and gradually do less and less manual and switch over to that automated tools. There will always be a need for some manual inventory to make sure we kind of account for any errors. The tools always have some errors in there. Of course, manual does as well, but that we can see which tools work well in which environment, what kind of errors they have, and be able to figure out from there. So as we gradually move over to that automated tooling strategy, things will get better. But right now, it's one computer, two computer, three computers. So it's very it's very manual, but it takes a very long time, and it's on an annual basis. So as we go forward, that will slowly go away. So here, this is one of the more important parts, and I think if you've been around a while, and if you haven't been on the rock, you've probably heard about zero trust, right? And so zero trust, I think this really speaks here in terms of when we're talking about conducting data inventory. This is two birds with one stone. Not only will it help on the quantum side, but it'll help on the zero trust side. Tagging that data, making sure that it has the right life cycle on it. How long is our data good for? If our data is good for 3 years, do we really need to worry about PQC as we go on? That's a judgment aspect, right? Some data is good for 72 years, as you'll see here on the sheet. You'll have census data that's good for 72 years. We're a little bit behind on that, but we can start protecting it. Harvest now, decrypt later is a real threat. So we have to make sure that we understand our data, we tag our data, we're starting to protect against it, and make sure that it's that we're starting to put the right safeguards in as we head towards that post-quantum era. NSM 10 really spoke about we need to transition by 2035. CISA, along with most of the government agencies, we've baked in 2030. And there's a reason. As I told you, government's slow. So it takes a minute for everything to transition over. We want to build in a little bit of slack time because we want to move a little faster. So there's no surprise. Okay, so 2030 is what we're looking at as far as DHS and the agencies are concerned. Here, this is just basically talking about how to trace the transitions, making sure that agency to agency can actually still work with this data. Government to government can work with the data. Filing of tax returns with IRS, not my favorite thing. I'm sure you guys probably go through the same thing, but IRS is another. We want to make sure that we're able to really inventory that data, capture that data, and not have it go out because there's a lot of sensitive parts to it. So we want to make sure that we're conducting the data inventory to make sure that folks are not stealing that data, and we put the right safeguards in as we go towards 2030. And as it says, we want to protect non-PQC keys for past transaction capability. So how are we going to do that? It's those keys are temporal, right? They can go in and out. So they change a lot of keys at that time. So we want to make sure that is useful as well. But our main goal is to be able to identify that data, the life cycle with that data, and be able to protect against the harvest now, decrypt later. Update PKI. So this is where crypto agility really becomes important. Crypto agility is, I think, our biggest defense. As we go through, and I was reading an article lately about we're heading towards logic gates, I think, for quantum. And my thought is if we head towards logic gates, which is part of why we're going to get to a CRQC, I think earlier than the next 10 years, is that those logic gates, they're going to give an ability for that quantum computer to break the standards that we have today. Even the PQC algorithms that we have today, we're going to have to be able to switch over to that. So as we get stronger and stronger quantum computers, we've got to move. We've got to be able to switch over. We've got to be able to bring those products in. So we have to develop within not only the government, but in the vendor community, a way to be able to integrate new algorithms very, very quickly and be able to switch back and forth, because that's the only way we're going to be able to work with that. In terms of hybrid, so a lot of government agencies, DoD, DHS, we're saying head towards PQC, but I think there's going to be a nice compromise as we go along to look at hybrid, to look at being able to go between classical and quantum algorithms. One is you'll be able to test to see if things are actually working, right? So I think you have to look at that hybrid mode to make sure that we're still able to talk to each other. That's going to really test that interoperability between it. Because if we're not able to talk to each other within that quantum space, it could really impact our operations, especially on the government side. So we have to look at that hybrid mode as well and not write it off, because we still have some time before we get to the quantum space. So I think we can't just say, nah, that's not going to be any good to us, and we just got to go PQC. There are other ramifications to it. So again, we have to look towards that hybrid mode. And this is just basically develop templates to go towards PQC. We have a test strategy right now working with NIST for FSEB agencies. We're implementing use cases where we have a test plan, we have a test strategy to how we're going to make sure that things are working right, especially on the federal side, because like I said, we have a very dynamic environment. It's definitely, it's been around for a minute, and it's got some old systems on there, some legacy systems that may not work well with or may not play well with the new kid. So we just have to make sure we put that in place. Risk assessment, so important. So everybody determines risks in their own way, own shape, own form, right? But vulnerabilities for me, the agency, and for you and your organization are completely different, right? So we have to be able to look, and there are some risk assessment tools that take quantum into account. And so we have to start integrating those tools within whatever we're testing into our suite, because this is not going to be one tool fits all. It's not going to be, you know, we just put this ACDI tool in and it's going to do everything. It's not, we're not seeing that. We're seeing that there's going to be gaps. And there's going to be gaps, and there's going to be a need for multiple tools, a suite of tools, risk assessment tools, to be able to identify the areas that sometimes you're not thinking about. I'm not thinking about. I think those are the areas that we really have to look at and make sure that we're focused on our risk assessment. I tell my wife all the time, I said, be careful what you send to me, because, you know, just in case quantum computer comes out, I don't want any business about us going out in public. So just calm it down, you know. So I tell her, you know, you can't send certain things, and that's my risk assessment. Inform my wife. No. But all jokes aside, the risk assessment is something very important that we need to look at and make sure that we incorporate into our roadmap. Training and education, one of the biggest areas. Like I said, I'm having to brief my director and get her up to speed, get everyone in the agency up to speed. Start to put those brown bags in place, those educational seminars in place. Have them come to these conferences. Don't have them listen to me as a speaker, but have them come to these conferences and be and just kind of sit down and understand what's going on. Because a lot of times we don't integrate our folks in this, and we work in a silo. That's not what this is about. I told you we have to establish those lines of communication, and training is one of those lines of communication. We have to get that knowledge out. Hopefully it doesn't go the way I promised myself I wouldn't use AI in this speech, but AI has gone crazy, but I think quantum is the next one, right? I think next year, you know, with the release of these algorithms, I think quantum is the next technology that's going to go a little insane, and we have to put those elements in place to make sure that we're starting to train folks and they understand what PQC is and understand the dangers and well, I don't know if they'll ever understand entanglement, but good luck. So as we move there, we have to make sure that this really comes into play as education and training for our organization. Okay, and acquisition. So this is mainly from our side on the you know, federal side, but working with the vendors on your side and working with any organization, we have to be able to put some kind of analysis in place to know if the algorithms are updated, to say what certification do we have to say that, oh yes, you can do business with the government now, right? I see there's a lot of standards starting to come out on this, and that's great. We have to integrate it into our operation space, that anytime that you're trying to do government business, or you're trying to deal with an organization, that you need to have these certifications so that you can move forward and be able to do business with the government or any outside organization. So we're starting to move towards that and being able to push that envelope. The part on there, develop funding requests as appropriate. So I know you guys saw the OMB budget at $7.1 billion, and a lot of folks, I know when we were at the White House event, they were very unhappy with $7.1 billion. That's the initial budget, right? I can't speak to, will it change? Will it go up? Will it go down? It's an estimate, right? And as we go through, and we learn more and more about what we have to do and what we have to implement, yeah, there's going to be changes. Will it go down? Who knows? And also, that depends on the administration. So as we go through that, we're gonna see the different changes in that budget, and as we move forward. So I think if you're like, oh my goodness, this 7.1, what were they thinking? You know, stay tuned. It's, you know, like I said, there's changes. It's an estimate, and we have to look at it in that form. Okay, so the test environment, And that is a huge thing that we're working with NIST on, is to be able to build that test environment, to be able to verify that that product is ready, and it can represent, and it can be put into the federal and enterprise space. That is, as I told you, very dynamic. We got federated agencies, we've got labs, we've got legacy equipment, got tape drives, things. I mean, just lots of drama in there. And it's something that we're working with to build that environment to not just mimic ours, but to be able to give us an idea of what tools work best in our environment. And not only just the federal space, but you see the CI there where it's talking about the critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure, some of those components can't necessarily carry those lattice-based algorithms on them. So it's very hard, and we have to figure out how we're going to protect that. And that's where the government comes into play, and working with the vendors to see how we can protect them, develop a strategy for good protection of those critical infrastructure systems. Lastly, OT. So this is where I was talking about the critical infrastructure systems. IT systems have a little more juice than the OT systems generally do. And so as we look towards how to protect our OT systems, that is one of our biggest problems. All right. Is it going to be defense in depth? Is it going to be, are they able to carry? Do we have to rip and replace them and put new things in place? They don't, like I said, they don't play nice with these new kids. So they have to be able to change, or be able to have some kind of security in place so that we can protect these. We have a paper coming out very soon on this exact issue, dealing with OT and how the quantum space is going to affect our operational technology and our critical infrastructure, because this is so important. CISA is our mission is to protect the nation's critical infrastructure and be able to give guidance on that. So we are very, very interested in this. There's a lot of vendors in this space, and some of those systems are very proprietary. So we're going to have to work and see how we get these wonderful algorithms that NIST developed to work with these systems. So as we go through, this is one of those areas that we really have to look at and really have to pay attention to. And so if you have questions, www.cisa.gov. Again, my name is Garfield Jones. If you have questions about anything in this slide, don't contact me. No, seriously, but if you have questions about it, I will stick around, and glad to talk to any of you. As I said, I'm fairly friendly, and I appreciate the time and the attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Garfield, for an interesting presentation. Our second keynote presentation is entitled The Post-Quantum Question. The presenter is co-chair of the Crypto Forum Research Group, co-chair of the Internet Research Task Force, and principal at Cryptography Consulting. Please welcome Nick Sullivan.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'd like to thank Bill and the organizing team for inviting me, and I'm excited to explore the post-quantum question. Now we're in San Jose, in the Bay Area. How many people in the audience are local? Oh, wow, we have a really, really good amount of local people. Okay, so everyone who raised your hand, get ready for a jump scare. Okay, yeah, here we go. All right, the earthquake. Let's begin by revisiting October 17th, 1989. This is 35 years ago next month, the day the Loma Prieta earthquake struck the San Francisco Bay Area. This earthquake had a magnitude of 6.9, resulted in 63 deaths, over 3,700 injuries, and caused approximately $6 billion in damages, which is somewhere between 13 and 20 billion today with inflation. So despite knowing the seismic risks since the devastating 1906 earthquake in the Bay Area, they weren't fully prepared when this disaster struck again. And one of the most striking images is the one on the right here from that disaster, is the collapse of a 50-foot section of the Bay Bridge. This is undoubtedly a deadly event, but it pales into comparison to what could have happened if the quote-unquote big one, massive earthquake along the San Andreas Fault, would have hit. So despite this long history, only about 40% of homes in California were earthquake safe before Loma Prieta. The free market did not address this risk adequately. And if you want to learn more about this, there's an excellent documentary available on YouTube from 1970 called San Francisco, the City That Waits to Die. So I encourage you to check that out. This earthquake was the big event that finally woke people up to take action. And it wasn't even the big one. But it did galvanize people, and I'm sure you're seeing the analogy that I'm hinting at here. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, so imagine it's 1989, and we're contemplating when the big one might strike along the San Andreas Fault. Well, doing some math here, historically, big massive earthquakes in the region 9.0 on the Richter scale plus occur roughly every 150 to 200 years. The last quake was the Fort Tejon earthquake in 1857, which by 1989 was 132 years in the past. So based on historical patterns, you might expect the big one to happen sometime between 2010 and 2050, right? This is a broad window rather than a precise timeline because obviously these things are unpredictable. So in essence, California faced three futures. The disaster happening soon, within 10 years, an expected timeline, 30 to 50 years, or the optimistic late or never. We all hope it's never. But California's goal was clear, which was to optimize for all three of these possible future scenarios. They needed a strategy that ensured safety, whether the earthquake came tomorrow, decades later, or not even in the lifetime of the people living. Okay, so after the Loma Prieta earthquake, California embarked on this transformative journey to enhance seismic safety, much more than had been done before. The state saw a significant increase in seismic retrofitting of homes and infrastructure, and this was achieved through a combination of strategies. First, legislation and building codes were strengthened, so seismic standards were mandated for new constructions, retrofits were required for certain buildings, and this legal push ensured that both new and existing structures became more resilient. Second, the California Earthquake Authority, CEA, was established, providing accessible insurance and discounts and grants to homeowners who retrofitted their properties. This financial support made safety upgrades more attainable for many. The third aspect here was the public awareness campaigns, and these helped educate the folks in California about the benefits of retrofitting. And the shift in public perception really motivated proactive measures across these communities. So, and for the most part, it's worked. The amount of homes that are seismically retrofitted today is much higher than it was, and we're in a very good state. But not all efforts went smoothly. For example, the Bay Bridge, the one that collapsed, the eastern piece that connects Yerba Buena Island to Oakland faced significant setbacks, right? So this was initially estimated at 1.3 billion, and the project went way over budget to 6.5 and didn't even finish till 2013, which is after the beginning of the window of when things could happen. So this highlights the challenges of keeping very large-scale coordinated infrastructure projects on budget and on time. But the lesson is clear here. Proactive coordinated efforts can lead to meaningful progress, but we must expect setbacks along the way. All right, so I've talked a lot about earthquakes, and this is not a civil engineering conference, so let's bring it back to our domain. When we look at seismic risks, we find principles that apply directly to cybersecurity. Just as we prepare for earthquakes, we must anticipate and mitigate digital threats before they strike. Here's a couple of key points. First, collective responsibility matters. Seismic risk reduction isn't just a personal issue, it requires government mandates, incentives, and public awareness, as I described. And the same is true for cybersecurity. Governments, businesses, academia, individuals must work together to create secure networks. Second point, market forces alone won't solve the problem. So just as relying on the free market led to an underinvestment in earthquake safety, the same happens in cybersecurity. Real progress was only made after laws and incentives were introduced, and in our field, organizations are unlikely to invest in long-term protections without regulations and incentives, unfortunately. I wish it was different. Third point and final one, preparedness is ongoing. So seismic safety is not a one-time effort. You can't fix everything in one fell swoop. It requires constant upgrades and monitoring. And cybersecurity operates on the same principle. So with evolving threats, we must constantly update our defenses, patch vulnerabilities, educate new users. And like an interesting statistic right now is that 1989 is far enough ago that folks in the Bay Area who are Generation Z, or Z, whichever way you want to say it, they are much less likely to have an earthquake preparedness kit because they don't have any experience with large-scale earthquakes, since there hasn't been one since the 80s. So yeah, education matters, continuous education. And so whether it's earthquakes or cyber attacks, proactive, collective, and continuous efforts are the only way to protect against unpredictable large-scale disasters. Okay. Right, so do we have recent historical precedents in cryptographic engineering? Absolutely. So like it or not, the Snowden revelations were a catalyst for monumental change in web security. We all knew that HTTP was insecure, yet in 2013, less than a quarter of websites implemented TLS for security. Market forces alone were, again, not enough to protect people's data from the very real threat of dragnet surveillance. Now, this wake-up call sparked a renaissance, not only in thinking about cryptography and internet security, but in academia. From 2013 to 2015, I remember there were new attacks against cryptographic protocols at almost every major academic security conference. So at the time, that showed that the web was not only not encrypted for the most part, but when it was encrypted, it wasn't encrypted especially well. So faced with this challenge and this understanding of the fact that the web itself is very much not secure from a cryptographic standpoint, a multi-pronged approach emerged to encrypt the web. And this was led by market leaders, nonprofit organizations, and public sector changemakers. 5 major points here that led to this change was, for example, Let's Encrypt, which launched in 2015, providing free TLS certificates and simplifying the ability to turn on HTTPS. Browsers and platforms began to encourage encryption through user experience changes, such as marking HTTP-only sites as not secure in the browser. Academics were invited to help design, at the IRTF, a more streamlined version of TLS, TLS 1.3, which included formal proofs to ensure its security. This is like a timeline of TLS, our standard communication protocol over the internet. And practically speaking, there were very few changes from SSL v3 to TLS v2, so TLS 1.2. So TLS 1.3 was really the first kind of serious reimagining of this protocol. So, and the 5th point here is government programs like FedRAMP pushed vendors to adopt not only secure protocols, but validated implementations, and this is important. Okay, so not to bury the lead here, but this collective effort to encrypt the web was a resounding success, right? Today, over 99% of web traffic is encrypted, with the vast majority using the more secure TLS 1.3. This transformation shows us that when faced with a clear and present threat, proactive collaborative action can lead to rapid and significant improvements in security. But we haven't always had success, right? We've discussed the Bay Bridge, but if we look at another Bay Area retrofit, the Trans-Bay Tube, this was only completed this year in 2024. And so that left BART riders crossing the Bay Bridge exposed to earthquake risk for 35 years. Inaction is risky. And the history of cryptography has similar stories, right? MD5, once a widely used hashing algorithm, was considered secure in the 90s. However, by the early 2000s, vulnerabilities were discovered, and by 2004, researchers were able to demonstrate practical collisions, right? Two inputs producing the same hash. So despite these warnings, and perhaps for a lot of different reasons, MD5 did remain in use, and in 2012 was still accepted in several pieces of software, and this was exploited by the Flame malware campaign, which issued a road cryptographic credential by finding a hash collision in MD5. So, and it was used to attack cyber systems internationally. So this highlights the cost of inaction when a future threat is identified. So by not addressing this vulnerability promptly, the industry not only failed to protect systems from rogue certificates, but also, I think this is important, missed a valuable experience in exercising crypto agility in practice. So the lesson of MD5 is clear. Delaying action can have serious consequences. Whether it's infrastructure or cryptography, proactive measures are essential to safeguard against known risks. All right, so where are we now with post-quantum cryptography? I've sort of set this all up for this. Well, let's share some historical points and get a sense of the timeline, because this is a very, very long story, or at least throughout history. There's a lot that has evolved. So in 1994, Peter Shor introduced his algorithm showing that quantum computers could, in theory, break the cryptographic systems we rely on. And at that time, quantum computers were imaginary, really, they were thought to be at least 50 years away, or at least one's large enough to do what Peter Shor proposed. And so let's consider what 50 years really means in the context of technological advancement. 50 years before Shor's algorithm in 1944, we were at the dawn of the digital age with the development of ENIAC, one of the first general-purpose electronic computers. That was 50 years. Think about it. In just 50 years, we went from the earliest computers filling entire rooms to personal computers and the internet revolutionizing our lives. A lot can happen in 50 years. Okay, so let's fast forward to today, 30 years after Shor, which is our Loma Prieta. Experts predict that a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, say that 3 times fast, could emerge within the next decade. And this is generally the consensus. And we're no longer talking about 50 years, it's potentially just 10 years away. So looking ahead, we, as an industry, face outcomes similar to those we contemplated about the big one in 1989, or that California contemplated, or United States. And anybody who's thinking about this, there's kind of 3 options. Soon, quantum computer arrives imminently, and we deal with that fallout faster than the 10 years. As expected, it emerges in a decade or 2, and we have time if we act now, and later never, which is definitely a possibility. There could be a plateau in the development of quantum computing. Don't quote me on that, but it definitely is a possibility. So, are we ready? Well, we've made significant progress in addressing the foundational elements. Key encapsulation mechanisms like ML-Chem have been standardized, but not fully deployed. And digital signatures are still being finalized. There's a new round to explore new options. But even still, more advanced cryptographic techniques, things like threshold, things like pairing, things like attribute-based encryption, still lack post-quantum equivalence. And the higher level protocols like TLS still need to incorporate these and standardize them and give them code points in order to ensure global interoperability. So in other words, the Bay Bridge construction is still underway, but the Trans-Bay Tube is still held together with scraps of metal and, well, we have plenty of old houses. out there. Okay. There's a saying that I've heard several times from Benjamin Franklin, which is a good one to keep in mind, which is a small leak will sink a great ship. Sorry, is that me? Maybe I can change this around. Okay, just as earthquakes are, let's see, here we go. Preparing for an uncertain future. Yes, so a small leak can sink a great ship. So just as earthquakes are not the only threat to the Bay Area, quantum computers are not the only risk to data security. We cannot ignore that classical cryptanalysis is something that still is ongoing. And the question of, is there a number field sieve equivalent that can break elliptic curve cryptography that mathematicians haven't found yet? Who knows, right? Maybe, as kind of hinted before, with this machine learning's accelerated capabilities, it's possible that we could accelerate our understanding of mathematics and break current cryptographic systems. But this is something to keep in mind. This is not a quantum threat. This is a classical threat. And additionally, and maybe more concretely to this audience, implementation bugs, right? Both in hardware and in software, vulnerabilities to side channels, these are definitely a threat. And this is why vetted standard implementations and robust code and hardware are crucial. And the good thing about PQC is that it gives us an opportunity, even if this never happens, this quantum threat, it gives us an opportunity to rethink our previous assumptions and diversify our mathematical foundations, improve our coding practices, and ensure our security measures are as strong as possible. So this is great. In essence, while we watch the horizon for the storm of quantum computing, we should also tend to the small leaks that could sink our ship. And this PQ transition will help with that. Okay, let's go back to the seismic analogy and bring this home, land this ship with a few tiny holes. Okay, so preparing for natural disasters isn't just about anticipating the worst. It's about building stronger, more resilient communities. And preparation provides 3 benefits: stronger safety, increased confidence, and improved standards. And similar, preparing for a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, even if it doesn't arrive soon, offers similar 3 benefits: stronger security, post-quantum cryptography, strengthens our defenses against past and present and future threats, greater agility. By regularly updating our systems, we ensure they're more adaptable and ready for future transitions, whether they're related to quantum or not. And finally, improve standards and practices. Similar to enforcing building codes and safety practices have led to stronger, more reliable infrastructure, revisiting security standards and practices with everything we've learned in building systems over the last 30 years makes them more robust, 30 years plus, makes them more robust and secure. So, in summary, whether the quantum threat arrives soon or far in the future, the preparation that we're doing today benefits us in all 3 timelines, right? So by building resilience now, we're not just protecting ourselves today, but positioning ourselves for this uncertain future. All right. One key lesson for actually getting there from encrypting the web was that the big players with market dominance can drive significant change. And in web security, a collection of big players, namely Chrome, Firefox, Gmail, Facebook, and Cloudflare, jump-started the adoption of TLS 1.3 by leveraging their market position as leaders. And cryptography isn't just the web, obviously. That's sort of one subset of the wider cybersecurity ecosystem with cryptography. But there are still central players that can make a similar difference in jump-starting PQC and PQC deployment. In particular, two of the main ones are cloud services and, the largest enterprise in the world, the US federal government. So they both play a massive role in shaping our security landscape. And the roadmap Dr. Jones presented is very promising. But the big players do need to step up in industry and even further push things forward quickly as we move towards post-quantum cryptography. So as we discussed, the market can't solve this alone. We need to assess our systems, educate our teams, collaborate on standards, and most importantly, and for this group here, build great products. And the security should be built in and not bolted on. And yeah, there's quite a lot we can do and that we have to do, but we're well on our way to being safe in this quantum future. So by retrofitting our digital world today, we not only prevent disaster from the quantum threat, but we build the foundation for future innovation. All right, that's it. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take questions. And also, I'm glad I didn't summon an earthquake with this talk. All right, thanks. Do we have time at all? Do we have time for questions? Yeah, I'll take one or two. Please step to the mic if you have it.
Thank you very much for a very informed presentation. I sense that you didn't touch on one of the surprises might be that the PQC algorithms are not proven to be unbreakable, and so therefore they are, according to Jen Easterly, not secure by design. And as a consequence, one of the big surprises might be that they're all broken, which means hybrid planning will have no effect whatsoever because there will be no next algorithm to move to. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think one of the great things about the PQC forum is that we had a lot of different proposals and a lot of them were broken. And you know, it's my view that cryptography is magic in a way. We're relying on an information asymmetry in the totality of knowledge of discrete mathematics. So we do not know which algorithms are secure, and to actually prove the post-quantum algorithms are secure against any future threat is not something we can currently do. It's well beyond our understanding of mathematics. So I think the important part is diversity, and this is something that hybrid can help, is whether or not we hybridize with RSA and ECC, or different curves on ECC, or all these new chems. I think having multiple algorithms and software that's able to do agility effectively is going to be really the only thing that we can do in preparation for mathematical advancements.
Great answer. There are a couple of companies here that have mathematics-free solutions that are pragmatically secure. And if you come to booth 305, I'll be happy to show you mine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick, for a great talk, Will Oxford, Antimetric. So I really also appreciate the fact that you brought up machine learning, because a lot of people, I think, have a blind spot in that regard. It's been over a decade since DARPA did the Cyber Grand Challenge, and if nothing else, that proved that machines can react and counter much faster than humans. I think that, from my perspective, that the PQC revolution has to happen, and has to happen sooner than people think, simply because we are ignoring the history of computing. There was a large effort in Bletchley Park that basically well preceded the ENIAC development, and it was not a general purpose computer. It was aimed at exactly one task, and I would theorize that there is such a development already ongoing now that we're not aware of. But the problem is not that the people who have developed it will take advantage of our personal private bank accounts and whatnot. It's, to me, the danger is that somehow that information will leak, by mistake, and then we will face a Loma Prieta like no other around the world, and it's going to happen sooner than people think. But the point of all this is there is in addition to PQC, there is another avenue towards security, and that's basically quantum technologies, quantum QKD is maybe a dirty word in this country, but it's certainly not around the world. But entanglement sharing, quantum networks, that what. So do you have any feeling for how well that the community is engaging in that area of excellence?
Yeah, I think this is a really good point that when it comes to the attack scenarios, they're not always overt, they're not always immediate. Something can happen, especially the gathering data and encrypting after the fact and using it covertly is not something that we'll know. We may not know when the first quantum computer attack happens. With respect to integrating quantum computers into what this event is for the most part, classical computing, PQC, I think it's not very tightly integrated, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that.
Thanks.
All right, I'll take one more, Russ.
Hi, Nick. Sorry about that. So, responding to the first person that came to the mic, I would expected you to say that the hash-based signature stuff has a much stronger foundation, and we have much greater confidence that it won't fall. And so I think that leads to a strategy that says if we ever have to migrate rapidly, we better have a signature that we have great confidence in, and LMS, XMSS, and so on give us that, so that, you know, if the quantum computer were to happen tomorrow, how do we deploy the great standards we have now when, you know, Microsoft update depends on RSA? So anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having a diversity of algorithms is important, and even testing out algorithms that have characteristics or properties that are not good for IoT and OT systems, like, for example, very large signatures, it's worth exploring and it's worth doing, at least for a backup, because we do not know how quickly this threat will happen, and we may not know. Okay, I'll do one last one.
Yes, so Lily yesterday presented a whole list of different classes of algorithms with different primitives. So say as a hardware vendor, we just got one implemented. How do you foresee agility for hardware vendors? So say I just spend all my money, sorry, on the pickup truck to escape that earthquake. Now you're telling me I should get a sport car instead. So how do I deal with that?
I think my point applies more holistically to systems rather than individual hardware components. To advocate for implementing very different mathematical foundations on very constrained items, I believe is hard. It's going to be difficult to do. So I think there's a matter of combining things at different layers and involving different technologies to cover things. So like when the IRTF is exploring taking PQ chems and putting them into different algorithms, there was a proposal for messaging layer security, and that maps to what Apple announced that they're doing, is that the post-quantum aspects don't happen as frequently as the classical aspects because, you know, it might be longer or whatnot. And so this might be combining a software component with a hardware component, et cetera, et cetera. But to take a step back, I think there is a need for a diversity of these options, and yeah, hardware doesn't provide that flexibility in some cases. So the holistic system needs to take that into account. Okay, thanks everybody.